Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Alison Snyder. I'm one of the managing editors at Axios. Thank you all for being here. I'm joined on stage by May Habib. Thank you
Hi,
for being
Allison.
here. Hi. She's the CEO and co-founder of Writer, which is a generative AI tool platform for enterprises. I want to start big picture with you, if that's okay. In the past few weeks, some tech leaders have made some pretty public predictions that are, I think, setting expectations very high for what's to come in this year. Where do you fall in that? Should we expect big things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most people by the end of the year, if they've worked at a enterprise that is using AI, will have built their own first app or agent. So I see the acceleration happening pretty fast. Palmyra, our series of reasoning models, has gone pretty good at task orchestration and execution across third-party systems. So we're starting to see really sophisticated agents getting built. Our customers are mostly Fortune 500 and Global 2000 companies, financial services, healthcare, CPG, retail. So this is high-stakes stuff. With sophisticated folks at the helm, and the AI is very, very good.
So you started Writer pre-ChatGPT. I'm curious, what's something that's happened since then that you just didn't foresee?
Yeah, when we started Writer 4 years ago, we thought we'd stripped out the decoder from encoder decoders, and we had something that would disrupt the writing space. What I didn't foresee 4 years ago was natural language would be the interface to intelligence, and we'd have software that could write software. And so the things that we are building now with those same decoders, albeit much more powerful, are incredibly transformational. And I did not 4 years ago think we'd be disrupting the entire SaaS industry by enabling people to essentially build, custom software as fast as filling out a Google form.
I just interviewed a little while ago Demis Hassabis from DeepMind, and he was talking about how surprised he was that large language models, that you could actually learn language. There was, for a long time there was this belief that it was sort of innate and coded in our brains in some ways. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. So AI agents, that autonomously make decisions are sort of this next big buzzy phase of AI. What are you all doing on AI agents, and how big is the gap between sort of what they can do and their promise?
Yeah, the gap is not a product or technology gap. The biggest gap that we see is business process. So, you really don't want agents making too many decisions, right? What we see as really the bottleneck here is getting people and companies and teams to really align on what is our process, what is our exception handling for something, what is the happy path, what do we want the human approval and control and contribution workflow to look like. The tech building blocks to execute on that exist today, but the big body of work and where there's truly a skills gap is that. And let me give you an example. We work with a top investment bank that is automating all the pitch book creation in their company, which is exciting because, incredibly manual process. You have a big industry event and you're putting together 50 to 60 company profiles, and people are staying up all night to do this. And each profile you're pulling from FactSet and Yahoo Finance and S&P Global and the company's website and like all their PR, et cetera. And you can automate that. But what happens to the approval workflow when you get actually 50 at once to approve versus having them trickle out over a few weeks? There's a lot of change management around, getting all of the data access and how we orchestrate and what the approval mechanism looks like. And that is a very human effort, and it requires both executives from the top saying, yeah, you're not just going to do this off the side of your desk. You are dedicated. It is your job to make this AI transformation happen. And then also for, folks whose job it is to be brought into that and to see, an evolution of where their own job goes, right? You as the junior banker, you're not going to go to the meeting, not sleep off, staying up 3 nights in a row, right? So, really getting both that kind of bottoms up excitement because the business logic, all that exception handling, it sits in people's brains. We've got to encode that into the agent, right? But then also, what does my job become if I've created so much automation and augmentation?
Yeah, do you encounter resistance, or do you hear, stories of resistance encountered in terms of those workers who are using these tools? Or
It is so rare, honestly. Like, people are so hungry to get updated tooling and more exciting stuff. I just think they've been like drastically underwhelmed by the quality of what they have seen, but they're hungry for good tooling.
where do you see the biggest use cases or the sort of biggest return of investment on the agentic AI?
Yeah, great question. We work with a major DTC retailer that has automated a lot of their return processing through agentic AI. And what's great about this is it really is true orchestration where AI does self-orchestrate and decide, but within narrow confines. So I think it presents a really good blueprint for how to do this. So about a third of their inquiries are due to, hey, I need to return this. Either I don't have a printer, I need a label, like this is the wrong size, do you have a suggestion for a different product to replace XYZ, et cetera. And so their agent is orchestrated across kind of three main areas of business logic. First, being able to bring in the multiple sources. I mean, not everything goes into their ticketing system of a request, and then being able to classify it. Like, what does this person actually want? And this is so great for the kind of reasoning capabilities that AI is good at now. Then it is hey, what is our business process for this thing? And you want a way where that can be updated, right? So we no longer allow 30-day returns. It's now a 15-day return. If you got to put in a Jira ticket for somebody to update that prompt versus being able to do it yourself, that's a real bottleneck to scaling something like this. So, Writer's a full stack generative AI solution for apps and agents, so we make it much easier for business people to control that kind of logic. And then it's the actual execution. So what are the third-party systems that I got to connect to, whether it's sending somebody an email or, messaging them back via push notification? How can I actually use AI to orchestrate across those tools versus a human needing to go in and really just duplicate something right across another platform, which is, hopefully not how we're going to be spending most of, our jobs.
Are there industries or sectors where you're just it's a no-go for now?
So we work with some of the largest healthcare payers in the country, and some of them are, in the news quite a bit. And, there's a lot of opportunity for AI to take out admin costs in healthcare without being, a replacement for human diagnoses decisions or an intermediary, for that very important last mile human-to-human connection. So, it is at a very high level, there can be executive resistance to really just the perception of using AI. But when you really dig in with people and help them understand, how much overhead there is that can be automated, that frees up these really bogged down clinicians to actually spend time with patients. So I really see that as much more fraught. But, in financial services, we have figured out how to get folks comfortable with how to represent investment decision advice, audit trails to FINRA if they are audited, in that you're able to see what somebody asked and what writer returned and what that citation trail was. Did they click in to see the citations? And that is the kind of observability that is required for folks to get comfortable. But I think the big takeaway is that the most profitable, the most powerful, the most competitive companies are the ones who are investing the most and getting the most out of it. And there's still a very, very big gap between them and everybody else. We're lucky to be partnered with lots of folks who are very avant-garde on this, but there's still a big gap between the folks who are at square 10 and the folks who are still trying to figure out how to get to square 1.
So I wanted to ask you about something that's in the news a lot recently. And so we're seeing some companies that are turning away from their diversity initiatives. And I'm curious, how much more likely is bias to go unaddressed if the diversity of people isn't represented in these systems? Isn't represented in the people building these systems?
It's a good question. We sell to enterprise, and there's almost no big customer we're talking to who isn't actually asking us about the carbon footprint of our training pipeline and our models. If you are L'Oreal, if you're Goldman, if you're Accenture, like, it doesn't matter what, mainstream thinks or has shifted on kind of woke, anti-woke, et cetera. Like, that's actually become pretty ingrained in how you do business. So on the bias front, all of the enterprise RFPs and questionnaire include that. So we are very transparent. Professor Percy at Stanford has done a great job. They've published a foundation model transparency index. We are the most transparent closed source model. We do open source a bunch of stuff, but our leading edge models are closed source. So you can actually, if you care, ask your AI providers around the inherent biases in their models. There is a bias index that you should, as a LLM provider, be publishing to your customers. We do. And then we use synthetic data to actually augment and address the biases that are in the data. We do use synthetic data pretty widely across all of our models, but it's been a pretty good weapon to address the inherent biases in just the open source data sets.
Because DEI is a pretty consumer-driven, consumers want products that serve them, right, or that work for them. So, political backlash is really strong. So you're not worried that diversity efforts will won't survive today's politics?
No, I don't think so. I think this is a wave that will pass.
What should we be paying attention to that we're not?
That's a great question. I think learning to use AI truly, like in your day-to-day, to give you leverage, it's like relearning how to read and write. And I do think, there's lip service to AI literacy, et cetera. That's like basic, 2022 table stakes type of stuff. I think it was IDC or Gartner published a stat this month around, by 2026, 25% of employees will have built an agent at work, which is so exciting. And I hope it's 50%. I hope it's 75%. I was at CES 2 weeks ago, and I asked my EA we were going to a 200-person dinner, a little bigger than this. And I was like, which customers are going to be there? Which prospects? Who should I be talking to at this dinner? And she's like, oh, I just got the lookbook. It's like literally 300-page PDF. And I'm like, Carissa, please do not go through that. Build an app for it. And she built an app that she's used all week for this event too, where she can upload a PDF. It takes everybody's name, sticks it in a spreadsheet, gets their LinkedIn profile, checks Salesforce, figures out if they're a customer or they're a prospect, and comes up with a list of who I should meet. And she's a pretty smart EA. But the goal is for everybody to be able to kind of create this tooling. I loved what Andrew said earlier around, you'd never hire an engineer to kind of help people do stuff like that. But now you've got these tools where you literally can describe to AI, right, what you want. And if you're somebody who's really good at describing things, right, and then evaluating whether the output is good, then you're going to get very good at that skill. And we are democratizing what it means to be a builder. We're really removing a huge bottleneck that has kept a lot of underrepresented people in tech out of these very lucrative building and engineering jobs. So I don't think we talk about that as much. I don't think we are as optimistic as we can or should be around how much human potential gets locked up in us having to click around 800 times a day in all of our tools that are built for the generic average, use case average person, and we can really come up with just much more highly personalized tool experiences to get our work done.
I think that's a great place to end. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alison.
This is all time we have. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for joining us. There are events here throughout the week, so we have QR codes around the room, so you can scan them, find out all the details, and we hope to see you back. So thank you all.